Nedra Glover Tawwab, The Balancing Act, Creating Healthy Dependency and Connection Without Losing Yourself. Every morning, a small voice calls out, "Mom, I need help." For the author, Nedra Glover Tawwab, these words from her daughter represent something profound, the healthy ability to ask for support. It's a skill many of us never learned. Perhaps you pride yourself on handling everything alone. Or maybe you lean so heavily on others that you've lost touch with your own inner compass. Either way, you're caught in a dependency crisis that's silently eroding your relationships and well-being. In this blink, you'll discover why both extremes, doing everything yourself and relying on others for everything, leave you feeling isolated and unfulfilled. You'll learn how childhood experiences shape your relationship patterns and what codependency really means beyond the buzzword. Most importantly, you'll find a roadmap for something better. Relationships where you can maintain your individuality, ask for help, and finally escape the exhausting extremes that keep you stuck. The dependency spectrum. Laura learned early that giving was a powerful way to stay close to people. As the youngest child of emotionally distant parents and much older siblings, she was starved for attention. But in school, she figured out how to make herself irreplaceable, lure friends with gifts, listen endlessly, and always be available. By adulthood, she was doing everything for everyone and quietly resenting them for it. Laura was operating in the extreme red zone of codependency, constantly martyring herself, believing this was the only way to fulfill her need for connection. Crucially, codependency is not a condition you either have or don't. You can exhibit codependent tendencies in some relationships and not others. What makes a relationship codependent is when both parties suffer or regress because of its dynamics. Codependency involves overgiving, overhelping, and rescuing, often without saying what you need in return. It can look like rearranging your life to accommodate someone else, continuing to date someone even though they don't want the same level of commitment, or feeling jealous when a close friend forms other relationships. Codependent people often secretly wish others would take more care of them, but feel uncomfortable when they actually try. They struggle to be alone and often compulsively give even when the other person could manage fine on their own. Counterdependency is the opposite armor. When a baby cries and nobody comes, it eventually stops crying. Not because the need disappeared, but because it learned not to bother. Many adults carry that same adaptation. Counterdependent people believe that closeness will cause them to lose themselves or be rejected. They refuse help even when overwhelmed, equate vulnerability with neediness, and frequently pour themselves into work or achievement in order to stay emotionally distant. Both extremes share the same hidden engine: fear. Codependent people fear abandonment and invisibility, so they overattach. Counterdependent people fear rejection and engulfment, so they detach. One clings while the other withdraws. The practical work begins with honest reflection. Are you rearranging your life for someone else? Do you feel compelled to fix what others could handle themselves? Or conversely, do you feel irritated when others get close? Do you tell yourself you're just independent while secretly feeling lonely? Awareness doesn't fix everything, but it exposes the pattern. Origins of dependency patterns. Hope was handed a house key at 6 years old and left to fend for herself while her mother dealt with her troubled older sister. She praised Hope for being so responsible, inadvertently teaching her that needing others was weakness. By adulthood, Hope's self-sufficiency had calcified into something isolating. She didn't call her partner even after she'd been in a car accident. He found out only when she arrived home in a rental car. Her independence had become a barrier to genuine intimacy. Where do patterns like this come from? The answer, more often than not, is childhood. Attachment theory maps how our earliest bonds shape our relationship behaviours and offers a direct explanation for where dependency issues originate. People who were affirmed, supported and raised by dependable caregivers develop secure attachment. They can ask for help, offer it with boundaries, and tolerate conflict without taking it personally. When caregivers were emotionally unavailable, abusive or self-absorbed, children develop anxious attachment, a persistent fear that no one will truly show up, which in adulthood often tips into codependency. When caregivers couldn't be trusted at all, children learn to depend entirely on themselves, developing avoidant attachment. Fierce independence that is really counter-dependency in disguise. Finally, disorganized attachment emerges from caregivers who were simultaneously a source of comfort and fear, producing adults who desperately want closeness but don't trust others to provide it correctly. They oscillate unpredictably between extreme self-reliance and over-dependence. These patterns are then reinforced by specific experiences that harden into sweeping worldviews. My father left becomes, everyone will leave. My friend betrayed me becomes, people can't be trusted. Trauma wires the nervous system to respond to past dangers even when those dangers have long passed. The solution isn't to get over past wounds through sheer willpower or push through alone. In fact, working through trauma or attachment issues in isolation is often just another way to avoid intimacy. Therapy provides a safe space to practice emotional vulnerability with someone trained to help you identify the beliefs driving your behavior. You might not even consciously recognize what those beliefs are until you speak your story aloud to a professional who can help you see the patterns. Asking for help. Naomi began planning her own bachelorette weekend despite her friends' offers to help, convinced they were too busy. When her best friend Trinity insisted on taking over, Naomi spiraled, obsessing over the budget, the guest list, and the excursions. In therapy, she learned how to stop and consider alternatives. For example, if she wanted certain people invited, she could simply tell Trinity their names. Naomi's growth wasn't linear. Some weeks she handled her anxiety gracefully, others she was inconsolable. Ultimately, the weekend turned out even better than she'd imagined, and she learned that receiving help is a skill that requires practice. The first obstacle is often the ask itself. Many people preemptively manage other people's time, assuming a friend is too busy before anyone has actually said no. But when people are unavailable, they can say so themselves. Even if they do say, not now, that doesn't mean not ever. And one person's unavailability doesn't mean that nobody is available. When you do ask, be specific. I'm overwhelmed is not a request, but can you create the presentations for Thursday's meeting is. Vague asks are unlikely to be understood by the other person, so even if they try to fulfill it, you're likely to be left disappointed. A direct request gives someone an actual chance to show up. Also, match the task to the person. Your 7-year-old can mix ingredients, but she can't judge when the cookies are done baking. Likewise, your chatty aunt might be an awful cook, but could be a wonderful greeter. Refusing all help because someone can't do everything means you'll end up with no help at all. Finally, train people once rather than doing everything yourself forever. Show a friend how to assemble one chair, and you've saved yourself assembling all of them alone. And when someone helps you, remember that you don't have to return the favour in kind or at all. Saying thank you is enough. Help rooted in genuine kindness isn't a transaction. Treating it like one can sour the very dynamic you're trying to build. To bring this into your own life, consider, what are some things you genuinely like help with from the people in your life but haven't asked for yet? Balance in relationships. When James's mother died unexpectedly, he discovered that his thousands of social media friends and regular golf buddies amounted to almost nothing. Beyond initial condolences, Nobody checked in, and when he tried talking about his grief, they changed the subject or went silent. In therapy, James realised the problem wasn't his friend's limitations, it was that his relationships had never been built for depth. Every conversation had revolved around sports, politics, and work. He had never been vulnerable with them, and so they didn't know how to show up when it mattered. The lesson from James's story isn't just to cultivate deeper friendships. It's that connection requires active, ongoing calibration. Surface-level relationships aren't inherently bad. In fact, they serve important purposes. Having a parent to sit with at your kid's track meet makes the time more enjoyable, and long work days pass more pleasantly with a co-worker to chat with. Associate relationships become problematic only when they're all you have. What distinguishes friends from associates comes down to 4 key qualities: commitment, time, trust, and depth. Commitment means being able to count on someone for shared, reasonable expectations. Time matters because we tend to spend our hours with people we value most, checking in and showing we care. Trust develops when you can share vulnerable information without worrying it's too much or that confidence will be betrayed. And depth, the ability to go really deep in conversation, is ultimately what separates friends from associates. If you want more connection with someone, own it as your need rather than framing it as their failure. You never want to spend time with me puts someone on the defensive. Would you like to come over Thursday for the playoffs gives them something to actually say yes to. If you need more space, declare it as a need rather than a request open to negotiation. "I've had a long week being social and need time alone to recharge" is a statement, not an invitation to debate. Reassure the other person it's about you, not them, and then hold the boundary without guilt. Nurturing connections. Brandy felt like a ghost in her marriage to Calvin. She was appreciated for managing the kids and household logistics, but invisible as a person who needed acknowledgement and care. But when she and Calvin finally entered couples therapy, Brandy was surprised to find that Calvin felt equally disengaged. They both claimed their marriage was a top priority, yet consistently prioritized work, children, and social obligations. This is devastatingly common. Relationship satisfaction typically declines once children arrive and the relationship starves from neglect. Loving someone isn't enough. You have to actively show them you care. When people say, "we grew apart," what they usually mean is that they stopped tending to the relationship. The good news is that connection doesn't require grand gestures or even shared interests. It requires consistency. Practically, this means building small, consistent habits around the people who matter. Add loved ones' birthdays to your calendar. Send a friend a photo or funny meme that reminded you of them. And ask people directly, "What are some things I should be mindful of in our relationship?" When a relationship goes through a transition, a child leaves for college or a friend moves away, the form of care needs to change too. The mistake is doing nothing because you're unsure what's needed. Something small and thoughtful almost always beats silence. And don't forget that it's a two-way street. You also need to tell other people what you need, especially when they directly ask. Pause and be honest with yourself and with your friends, and when someone offers to help, let them. When you want to expand your circle, treat it like dating. Get someone's number, suggest a plan, and follow through. Don't be afraid to make the first move. People are often open to connecting, but too shy or distracted to initiate. And remove the boxes around who qualifies as a potential friend. Different ages, life stages, and backgrounds enrich rather than complicate connection. Finally, resist the pull toward all or nothing thinking about your relationships. The people closest to you will have real differences, real flaws, and real limitations. That doesn't make the whole relationship a failure. Choosing connection over perfection is not settling. It's how lasting relationships actually work. The challenges of enmeshed relationships. Chrissy and Lola were inseparable, until adulthood began pulling them in different directions, and neither knew how to talk about it. When Chrissy chose a different friend as the maid of honour for her wedding, Lola was blindsided. Nobody had done anything wrong, the friendship had simply outgrown its original shape, and neither had renegotiated the terms. This is what enmeshment looks like when it unravels. Enmeshed relationships, ones with no real boundaries, blended emotions, and little time apart, work fine as long as both people want the same level of closeness. The trouble starts when one person starts to grow or needs something different. When enmeshment is no longer mutual, what was once intimacy starts to feel like a trap. When you need more space in a relationship, the most respectful thing you can do is say so directly and frame it around your own needs. Useful language sounds like, "I've appreciated how close we've been, and I also need to explore new parts of myself right now." That's not a reflection of our relationship. Your actions should match, being less available and spending more time with others. Without both verbal and behavioural signals, the other person is left confused. If someone is pulling away from you, resist interpreting it as rejection. The other person might be overwhelmed, juggling other commitments, or simply at a different life stage. Respond to a request for space with clarifying questions rather than anxiety. Can I still reach out? And if so, how often? Forcing contact only pushes them further away, or teaches them to perform closeness they don't actually feel. Most of us need more diversity in our relationships than we have. Are you always having the same conversations? Never feel challenged or feel like your relationships don't reflect your growth? These are signs you need to expand your circle. No single person can meet all your needs, and trying to extract everything from one or two people puts unsustainable pressure on those connections. So let people off the hook for what they can't provide and find those things elsewhere. A partner who doesn't love theatre doesn't need to be converted, you just need a friend who shares your passion. The goal is never perfect closeness, it's a diverse, resilient web of connections, each one asking only what it can reasonably give.